I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black T News. Hello. Welcome to Black T News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to talk about VD Vance, who is Trump's VP nominee, really going right to the media, doing these sit-down interviews and really dominating. I had criticisms for Trump picking JD Vance, and I think my reason to be concerned, you got a typo. Okay. I thank you in the comments. I did put VD instead of JD. I was typing really fast. Excuse me while I just edited really quick. But he did great on the Sunday show. So I want to play a little bit of those interviews. There's still a lot of conversation about Tim Walz and his lying about his record and stolen valor. And man, the media is really trying to cover that up. But he's not going to be able to avoid those conversations when they actually have a presidential debate, a vice presidential debate. Kamala Harris is still ducking, still running, still hasn't had any kind of interviews, sit down interviews and stuff. But hey, they said they might do one before the end of the month. So that's pretty crazy. I think the convention is next week, and I don't expect them to sit down and really do anything this week. So just don't hold your breath trying to hear anything from her. It is pretty incredible that folks are ready to just jump on the bandwagon for her and not know really anything about her. She really does benefit from having a short campaign. And perhaps that was always the plan. Lots of thoughts to get through today. Also, she's ripping off Trump's no tax on tips. She's trying to make herself seem like she's going to be tough on the border. Just things that are just so contrary to reality. And if you're going to let her get away with it, I guess America will just get what it deserves. Seriously, America will get what it deserves. And, I'll just have to keep, depending on the Lord, because I'm not going to have any faith in government. Perhaps you never should. But guys, we got to do better. Like, seriously, before I do my little intro, let me just make an appeal. Like, if you want, I understand people want a Black woman or an Asian woman or just a woman to be the president of the United States. And people were so excited when Obama got to be the president of the United States and made history and stuff. But guys, why this woman? Why this woman who's incredibly untalented? I saw an interview, someone was trying to pass her off as if she was a great orator like Obama. She's not. And she's not incredibly intelligent. She's not incredibly talented. She has no real convictions. She's one of the most prolific liars in the game. And she's literally hiding from the American people as far as having to answer tough questions. And I don't think the media would ask tough questions really anyway. I think she'd have a lot of softballs, maybe a couple things here or there. But she shouldn't have to wait so long or prep so hard, if she's even doing that, to sit down and address the American people. She's literally the vice president and has been for years. So basically, I'm saying she's not ready for prime time. And these people don't even know what they're getting by supporting her. It should be easy to know her record, things she's done in California, her record as the most liberal senator, which they tried to kind of renege on, but we recall We have the screenshots and evidence or whatever, despite what people might want to change about Kamala Harris. So if it's important for someone to make history for you, don't you want it to be the right woman? Don't you want it to be the right Black woman, the right Asian woman that really is going to do a bang up job, someone who really deserves it? This is a shame about like DEI. And I know that's not the route that I necessarily want people to go with, but you want people who are, when my dad was a kid and he'd go someplace and you'd see like Black people working up front or something, everyone would know that because of adversity, that those people were probably the best ones at their job because they had their job even though they were Black. That's how it used to be, and it shouldn't have had to be that way. Just if you're good enough to do the job, you shouldn't have to work 10 times as hard as everybody else to get ahead. But Kamala Harris, we're at a point in our life in this nation where you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Oh my gosh, guys, come on. She still doesn't have policies on her website. People don't even know why they're supporting her. They have some kind of vague idea and they're like, freedom, liberty. These people who shut you down, locked you in, made you try to force you to take a jab that wouldn't stop the virus from spreading. Just wanted to break your will. Someone who said that she wanted to do mandatory buybacks on firearms, talking about freedom. Someone who says she wants to stop the border or solve the border crisis after she likened ICE to KKK, and I'll play that clip. If you believe that she's going to be the one who's going to be the change that we need, and I've seen videos of different supporters say, well, I don't know what she's going to do, and I don't know any policies. I couldn't name one, but I just think she'll be the change that we need. Why would she be the change that we need? Why don't you think, since she's the vice president right now, that she isn't representative of what we have right now? And it'll just be worse moving forward. Because Joe Biden, he pitched himself as like, hey, we'll restore, normalness. But he didn't. He just went all the way to placating to these crazies that he put in his administration. And they leaned toward the left and they kept going left. She is the left as you can get. Her father was a Marxist. She quotes Marxist stuff all the time to be unburdened by what has always been. That's not a word salad. That's Marxism lingo. This person who keeps talking about equity instead of equality. This person who picked Tim Walz, who said one person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. If y'all want to pick that, I guess it is what it is. But it's insane. It's insane. I would want to be impressed by the first Black female president. I would want to be impressed. I wouldn't want someone with all this baggage and intellectual deficiency to be the history maker. Because when you say things and you criticize, if you criticize people, they try to turn it around and act like any criticism you have is rooted in some kind of racism. Now, maybe I could get away with it because I'm Black. I don't know. Maybe they'll just say I'm a traitor. But man, if people had criticism for Obama, they tried to pin it on racism a lot of the time. And I'm sure they'll do the same with Kamala Harris, but she's just she should be so underwhelming. She should be so underwhelming. So she's no one to be proud of. There's no merit to supporting her in the least bit. And I know but I've always said people would be proud of those pearls and those chucks, and they would get right on the train. There's people in the Trump circle that just thought this was going to be so easy. If you've been listening to me for a while, I said from the jump, if I was Kamala Harris, this is before like the Biden, falling off the cliff basically with his debate performance. But when a lot of stuff with Hunter was coming out and Joe Biden, I said, if I was Kamala Harris, I'd invoke the 25th Amendment. I'd want Joe Biden impeached. and I would become the president, and I'd say, "Oh, well, we take care of our dirty laundry in the Democrat Party." And then I would run as the law and order cop versus the felon, but v Donald Trump. I've been saying this for years. At least, I guess, at least 2 or 3, I don't know. Whenever this, I guess, the Biden Hunter stuff has been going on for a while, but that's what I had been saying. And I kept saying, people say that they hate her. People say that she has the lowest approval rating of vice presidents, but they don't understand how people are. They don't understand how tribal they are. They don't understand how all these black folks will be. Like, they don't understand that as soon as, because people didn't like her, excuse me, when Joe Biden was running, or when she was running. But as soon as she actually got to swear in, people were wearing their pearls. They were happy. So they're going to switch up real quick. So if anyone was caught by surprise at how much she's being embraced, you probably need to be fired if you're in a position of power around Trump and his campaign, because you don't understand people and you don't understand the left, because this was very predictable, very predictable. They need to switch and change course very quickly, the Trump administration, and if they don't, they're going to lose. And I don't mean they're going to steal the election, guys. I don't mean that it's going to be so close that they can steal. I mean, he's going to genuinely lose the election. And don't cry on election night and say, "Oh, they stole it. They 4 a.m. ballots." And no, I'm telling you, if they don't course correct, they're going to lose. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the media isn't doing their job, their due diligence. Kamala is ducking. And, if the American people let her get away with it, they'll get what they deserve. They should. I guess we will all suffer together. But the Trump campaign, they need to spend more on ads. Stop doing those silly little ads when she's dancing and laughing, because the Democrats are just like, "Oh, she's so joyous. Oh, she looks fun. She looks hip." That kind of stuff isn't going to work. But she has plenty of stuff in her own voice. McCormick has released some killer ads against Kamala. That's what the Trump campaign needs to do. So they have to define her, and they have to go on media that's unconventional as well. I was talking to somebody yesterday with the Trump campaign. I said, VD Vance needs to go on black media. I said, he can do it. I said, get him on the Breakfast Club. He can do it. Get him on the radio. He's that good. He can handle it. But you cannot have these places that won't go to a Trump rally, won't listen to one online, think that Kamala Harris made up no tax on tips. Because they'll be like, "Oh yeah, slay queen." You can't let those pockets that'll make all the difference in the world think that she's like the second coming of Obama. You can't let that happen. And if you got to reach into your pockets and spend the money. And they got an issue with ground game, because a lot of that stuff, people are getting really mad at some influencers online who are, well, I don't even know if you want to call them influencers, but some people with some pretty big accounts on X that are on the right but aren't particularly pro-Trump, but they're pointing out that, hey, there's an issue with their ground game. They don't really have one because they outsourced it to a lot of different groups. And that's a really big operation that you shouldn't leave to outside groups hoping that they'll get it done. So there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues. And I thought there kind of probably would be, because the Trump campaign in 2016 wasn't actually that well ran. They really benefited from a strong RNC, infrastructure and strong infrastructure in other places. The Michigan Republican Party where I worked, we had strong infrastructure. We had a lot of talented people who worked there, and I was one of them. And we worked hard, long hours. I didn't get to enjoy a lot of different stuff that other people did. Like, my family got to go meet Don Jr. at the Detroit office. I was in my office in Lansing working on videos that went viral, by the way. um, this is going to be a hard race, and I'm sorry to Trump that it's not easy like he thought it would be, but they got to course correct. They do, and I didn't mean for this beginning to turn into a big lecture, but I guess I started trying to lecture the people about Kamala, but now I'm lecturing the Trump campaign. But I could do a whole episode about, actually at dinner we were talking. My sister said you should do a whole episode about what Trump campaign should do. That was my plan for today. Maybe we could talk about it tomorrow. But they've got to push back on this Kamala stuff. You can do digital ads. Like I've seen Kamala stuff. I don't see stuff on YouTube because I got YouTube Red, so I could avoid this stuff. And I don't watch TV really. I just if I watch something online, maybe there might be an ad, but I haven't really watched a lot of TV online recently. Been busy working on stuff, but I play a game from here or there, time to time, or might edit a video on a program on my phone, and an ad will pop up, and they're Kamala ads. They're not Trump ads. So they got to get to work. But I'm telling you, if it's his election to lose, man, there's so much content to share with the world about Kamala Harris. There's so much content from her own mouth, from her own record, from people she burned. Just do the work. Just do the work. Anyway, let me go to my actual introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. Thank you to everyone in the comments and those watching live and those watching back later. I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream and run my website, all that stuff. So you guys can support. I do appreciate it. If you're watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. If watching on YouTube, you guys can send super chats. I do read super chats, and as long as they're not like inappropriate or something, but I will read them. Anyway, let's get to the news. So first, I do want to start off with something funny that I saw. I don't know who made this. I mean, therefore I am shared it, but he made clear that he didn't make this. But this is how people take clips from movies and they cut them out and green screen them. So I just thought this was a funny. It doesn't really have anything much to do with Kamala. Well, I guess it does, because they're all the U.S. government right now. But it tickled me. So
you are making $500,000, and you were only going to pay me 30. You're getting 30 grand. I'm getting 1,000.
You guys are getting paid?
You are making $500,000, and you were only going to pay me 30. You're getting 30 grand. I'm getting 1,000.
You guys are getting paid?
Yes, everyone else is getting paid. Including illegal immigrants, especially in places like New York and other places, Ukraine. Everybody's getting something except the American people. We talked already last week about how Kamala Harris was going around talking about inflation, and how she said like she was going to get price of groceries are too high, and that she's going to go after greedy corporations and landlords and stuff to get the prices down. Because what she and Biden are doing, they're trying not to say it's really inflation or their policies have led to it. They're trying to say that the prices are high because of corporate greed. Now, if you're going to allege that the companies are engaging in illegal price gouging, and she's saying that they're going to go after them, prosecute them or whatever, she could just call the attorney general or other local law enforcement if she has that kind of evidence. Like if she thinks that your local grocery store is, price gouging, why doesn't she do anything legally? Why doesn't Biden do anything legally? How come, Mayor Garland isn't doing anything legally? How come your state AG isn't doing anything legally? Because this stuff is like state by state with the different laws. So why not coordinate and do something? Why are you waiting like 5 months to do something? So I would encourage people. Actually, I shot something, but I didn't post it yet. But because I had to go to the grocery store this weekend, we had a church picnic on Saturday, and I made my Philly steak egg rolls, cheesesteak egg rolls. I did chicken and also like roast beef, so they're really good. And I also made a tomatillo sauce that was quite good. I make these enchiladas are really, really great, but I wasn't gonna make enchiladas for the whole picnic or whatever. So I just made the sauce and I fried up some chips because I don't like to store buy the chips. I like to just get corn tortilla shells and I cut them and then I fry them and then I put like kosher salt on them. It's way, unless there's like a particular specific tortilla chip you guys like, I think it's much better to just fry up the corn tortilla shells and put some kosher salt on them. They're so much better to me. And so anyway, shopping at the grocery store, everything is of course is expensive, but the peppers like were $1 each. The freaking peppers. I got the cilantro at a local mart, which the cilantro bushels were like 2 for $1.50 each, and now they're 79 cents. So that went up. At the main grocery store, like the packs of chicken are just ridiculous. Sometimes you can catch it on sale and there'll be like, I don't know, 8 to 10 pieces or whatever in there, these kind of long packs. But I used to get them for under $10 and sometimes they're close to 20. There was one pack I saw was like $18 something there. And everything is just so much more expensive. And it's definitely hard for people because wages aren't keeping up with inflation. And Kamala Harris and Joe Biden would have you believe that all this is because of corporate greed. Now, if your costs, just think if you have a small business or something and it costs to ship supplies, it costs the supplies where let's say you make mittens, your yarn or whatever is more expensive. Do you just eat the cost or do you raise prices? Some people, if you have enough margin, they'll eat the cost. But if you don't have that, what do you do? So the question is, are they just raising prices because they can? Does it really make sense in the real world? Because if you were Meyer and Kroger had high prices, and would you say, oh, well, I'm just going to raise all my prices to match Kroger? Or am I going to keep them a little bit lower so I take all their business because they know they can get chicken $1 cheaper here? That's how it usually works. So they keep saying that these companies are just greedy and they're going to go after them, but I don't hear them name names. And they don't name names because they're lying to you and they know people are gullible. But it's really baffling to me that they're like, we'll do it once I win. Once I win, I'll fix the problem. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. So what I think people should do is that they should take that clip of Kamala Harris talking about inflation and how when she gets in, she'll solve it, and just go to the grocery store. Like I went to the grocery store and I recorded myself in the grocery store talking about the prices and saying, Kamala, why don't you do something now? Why are you waiting? Why are you waiting? Like we were talking about this stuff at dinner yesterday. And my sister Katrina, who was the one who informed me that I had a typo, so I changed it real quick. She was talking about like people need money for Thanksgiving. They need money for Christmas. So why are they going to wait? I'm like, that's really good. That's what the Trump campaign should push. People need money for Thanksgiving. They need money for Christmas. They can't afford to wait. They can't afford Kamala Harris. If she has the answer, but she's holding out on you because that's the best way for her to get the vote, that seems pretty darn selfish to me. She's been the vice president for almost an entire 4 years. And the problem isn't solved and things are still hard. And she's had the solution the whole time. Seems very sketchy to me. Very sketchy. Very sketchy indeed. So I would encourage people to go ahead and go take clips of Kamala when she's talking about things that she'll do when she's the president and how she can solve the problem when she's the president, noting you are in the White House right now. Why are you waiting to help people? Why are you waiting to bring down these prices if you can really solve them? Or are you lying to us? And if people can do that all over the place on their social medias, on Facebook, on TikTok, on YouTube, and raise that question, the question that she won't allow the media to ask her because she's not talking to them. And you can make the ads, I guess, that the Trump campaign isn't making for whatever reason. Just do it yourself. Just do it yourself. Make people think about it. Because there are people who I posted a video asking, like, why aren't you doing something now? And some people are like, man, I plan to vote for her, but that's a really good question. It is. It's a really good question. It's a really good question. Anyway, let's talk about VD Vance. VD Vance, some people on the left are trying to say that he didn't do too hot over the weekend with some of these interviews. And they'll say that, but they're not posting a lot. And the reason is because he did great. Now, I was concerned about VD Vance. I didn't really see, like, I thought there were other people that I wasn't crazy about a short list, I guess. And I thought that other people could bring more to the ticket. And I thought there was like instant baggage with VD Vance with some of his past comments. Again, and I've said this many times, he's had very good explanations to why he switched to liking Trump, which he addressed in this interview, I think on CNN. I'm not going to play that clip though, but like, hey, Trump, I was wrong about some stuff, and Trump was really good. He was a really good president. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, but he was. And oh my gosh, you know what? I think I can find the clip because I think I commented on it. You know, maybe I did on TikTok. There was I think I commented on a TikTok video because when Dana and he said another thing I'm really ashamed of is that I listened to the lies of the media because she was like, you call him like Hitler. He said, I listened to the lies of the media. And she's like, oh, we don't lie. We just play him in his own words. And I was just baffled at the boldness of the lies. Now, out of all the people on CNN, I don't know if Dana Bash was that bad, but that was a lie of itself. Like, she knows on her network and just the media in general, like broadly, these folks lie all the time about Donald Trump. They misrepresent him all the time. Like, what about the bloodbath comments? For an example. And VD Vance mentioned one of the things that he believed it was people going around making the claim that Donald Trump said that all Mexicans were rapists. And I thought that was interesting because that was one of the, I made a video, if you guys haven't seen it, that's like top 10 Trump hoaxes. Trump calling all Mexicans rapists was one of the things that I had in the video that played a really big role in people's dislike of Trump in 2016. And he never said that. He never said anything like that. And when you actually go back and watch the video where that rumor spawned off of, everything Trump basically said in that press conference or little interview was correct about the state of the border and how bad things would get, and people coming from all over, even beyond Mexico, coming from all around the world. That was when he was like, they're not sending their best, and there's people, you know, who are rapists and criminals, but we know that's true. We know there's people coming over here raping children, brutally killing them. So he wasn't wrong, but people couldn't handle it. But what he said back then wasn't even, in hindsight, it's super not controversial. But he certainly didn't get anywhere close to saying that all Mexicans were rapists. But that's what people were saying. It was a huge mass delusion of folks. So Dana Bash just saying like, oh, we just play him in his own words. What about like Joe Biden going continuously on these interviews insisting that Donald Trump called neo-Nazis very fine people and no one pushing back on him? Like, you guys know that's a lie. You guys know that's a lie. Why aren't you pushing back on Joe and all these other people when they go around making those lies? It's a pretty heinous lie. So that was amazing on Dana's part saying that. But I'm glad JD said that. But again, the issue is that people could just find his old stuff that he said and just slap it in an ad. And they're not going to play the parts where he, said he learned or whatever. But I will say this. Among the people on his very short list, which was like Burgum, Rubio, and JD Vance, none of them could probably interview as well as JD has been interviewing. Like, Rubio can say some nice stuff, but I don't think any of them are probably as good in media as JD Vance is, at least from the interviews that I've seen over the past couple of days. And he's the only one who's kind of been out there, I guess, this weekend, really, really working for it. And he's putting on a master class that everyone else on the tickets could really learn from. Walls and Kamala, who are dodging and ducking, but also Trump too. But I don't know, Trump, if you get that old, you don't really tend to learn things. You just kind of are the way that you are, and people just kind of learn to deal with it. But he's really good. So anyway, let's watch a segment. We're not going to go through like all these, because he went on a couple different shows, but they're talking in this one about Tim Walz.
And on the question of when he left the National Guard, he filed his election paperwork February 10th, 2005. That was a month before the National Guard even announced that it was possible that they would deploy to Iraq, and it ended up being 2 months. He retired 2 months before they actually got the paperwork.
But on CNN last night, Dana, one of the people who was actually in charge of him said they knew they were going to deploy to Iraq in February of 2004, fall of 2004. So he knew he was going to Iraq. He decided to quit, to retire, whatever word you want to use, because he wanted to run for Congress. He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said. So again,
let me just pause right there. There was an interview that was on CNN, I think maybe Friday night, if I'm not mistaken. I think maybe it was, but it was about 10 minutes long. And that's what he's referencing. And it was really damning for Tim Walz. And at the end of the interview, now granted it was 10 minutes, and that's a pretty long segment to have a guest on. And they're like, okay, well, your audio is starting to cut out, and I want to be really respectful of your time, so we're going to go. And to me, it seemed like the interviewer, and she wasn't like extraordinarily pushy or anything like that, but it seemed like they were trying to make Tim Walz because he apparently went over the head of his the officer like right above him to be able to retire. And so she tried to assert that it was a personal issue, and maybe it's like, well, was this really like a personal issue? Like you were just upset that he didn't say something to you, or were you talking about like he actually did something wrong? He's like, no, he did something wrong. He did something that was not protocol. And he knew, they knew in advance that they were going to be deployed. And he's like, at that time, it would have been, too late to retire at that point, and to leave the way that he wanted to leave. So it was about 10 minutes long. And I thought it was pretty damning of Tim Walz. If you're not too interested in the stolen valor story, there's plenty of veterans that chit chat and talk that this is a big deal too. And there's plenty more where it came from with Tim Walz. He's a very radical guy, but it's very interesting that people have been sounding the alarm on his stolen valor for years. And I don't know, I guess Minnesota, the politics of the paper, the press didn't push hard enough and didn't care to. And this is a big issue for the campaign for them. And it's going to be something that JD is going to be able to really lay in on walls about. And maybe they'll say, well, Trump didn't serve at all, which Dana Bash does bring up. But Trump didn't, lie about certain titles that he had or was entitled to and stuff regarding this issue. I mean, the issue is Tim Walz and his stolen valor, and he should have known better. But anyway, let's keep watching JD here. It was pretty remarkable that they had it on CNN. I don't think they thought it was going to go the way that it went, but it was a really bad interview for Team Tim Walz.
Again, I'm not criticizing the service. I'm criticizing the dishonesty. Dishonesty spoken in favor and for the purpose of political benefit. And I think that the most important thing here, Dana, is it goes to Kamala Harris's judgment. Tim Walz is ultimately going to be the vice president. Kamala Harris is in great health. I'm sure she's going to be president if she wins for 4 or maybe even 8 years. Why did Kamala Harris choose a person who has lied about their military service? I think that is a serious lapse in judgment. And I don't want to hear from a campaign spokesperson of Kamala Harris. I want to hear Kamala Harris herself address what I just said.
I've seen a lot of
Boom.
statements from veterans, including those you served with, saying it's just untoward to be criticizing somebody who served for 24 years.
Dana, I'm not interested in the ad hominem. I've heard from a lot of veterans groups who criticize Tim Walz. The question is, he said he served in war and he didn't. That is a dishonesty. I couldn't care less what one or the other person says about it. I care about what the truth is. The truth is that Tim Walz didn't tell the truth. And importantly, Dana, this is about Kamala Harris's judgment. And I think that when you ask, why has Kamala Harris allowed the border to be wide open? Why has Kamala Harris supported policies that have promoted the increase in inflation? I think it goes to the heart of her judgment, and I think that that's what we should be talking about.
One last question. Donald Trump didn't serve in the military. He received a medical draft deferment for bone spurs to avoid serving in the Vietnam War, reportedly as a favor to his father. Do you find that shameful too?
I think that Donald Trump didn't serve in the military, but he didn't lie about it, Dana. I've known Donald Trump for a long time. He really honors our veterans. He honors me for my service. Donald Trump didn't lie about serving in the military. He didn't say that he went to Vietnam when he didn't. This is the problem. I don't criticize anybody, whether they served our country or not. I think it's honorable to serve, but obviously a lot of people have reasons for not serving. I criticize somebody for embellishing their record, for lying, saying, I went to war. Dana, do you think that it's a problem that he said, I went to war, but he didn't actually? That seems to be a problem to me.
Well, they've corrected that. Let's move on to...
They've corrected it by admitting that he lied.
Let's move on to another important issue to voters.
They corrected it by admitting that they lied.
And
that was a banger. They corrected it by admitting that they lied. There's just I was going to say paper trail. I guess there is a paper trail, but there's just a video trail of Tim Walz just like misrepresenting himself. Even like his profile had his ranking that is not appropriate on his Twitter. It's still active, I think. Teacher, football coach, which he was actually an assistant coach. He wasn't the coach, by the way. Command Sergeant Major. Yeah, so even the Kamala Harris team had said that he was like the head of the commission that he served on in Congress, and that wasn't even true either. So they just push one thing that's not true after another. And, veterans, they're a pretty solid voting base. And, at the end of the day, people vote for who's at the top of the ticket. But I think JD Vance made a really compelling case that this speaks to her judgment. I don't understand how that gets through kind of a vetting process. Now, apparently Tim Walz, like when he did his interview with her and stuff, was like, I'm basically at the end of my career and I'm not hoping to seek higher aspirations as opposed to other people, which talking about Josh Shapiro, whatever. And he was just planning to be a really good backup and grovel a lot. So that seemed attractive to Kamala Harris, I suppose. But he, for reasons that I thought was obvious why you wouldn't want to pick Gavin Newsom because California is so radical, are reasons why you shouldn't pick Tim Walz. But they just doubled down on the crazy. But apparently America needs to be taught that. Apparently America needs to be shown that, because a lot of people don't want to do the research and they're just like, oh, joy, laughter, they're dancing. And they just kind of leave it at that. By the way, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris have had no experience like in the private sector. So that's interesting. That's interesting. There's another clip that I want to show you guys of a little snippet of the
You've now asked me 3 questions about comments that I made 3 years ago. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she supported policies that open the American southern border. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she lied to the American people about Joe Biden's middle facility for the office. You are interviewing me, Dana, because I respect the American people enough to sit down for an interview.
I appreciate that.
Kamala Harris has been the nominee for 3 weeks. She hasn't sat down for a real interview.
Believe me, we are asking. You're not going to get a disagreement there.
But the point is, Dana, you've got me for 15 minutes or however long you have me. We should be talking about public policies that matter. How are we going to lower inflation? How are we going to reduce the cost of food and housing? How are we going to close down that southern border? We've talked so little about that. We've talked a lot more about a sarcastic remark I made 3 years ago. I think we should talk about the issues that most Americans care about. You've now asked.
So he's just good at this. Turn it back around, punch at the person you want to punch at while, still getting your message out there, still very complimentary of Trump. And, he's very good at this. Very good at this. So kudos to VD Vance for, making the case for him being the nominee, because I do know that there was a lot of talk about whether Trump did or didn't make it the right choice, and he's really trying to prove that he did. So anyway, Kamala Harris. Let's talk about Kamala Harris and the ways that she's portraying herself. So I want to talk about this no tax on tips, but let's talk about some of the stuff she's saying about immigration and the border.
America has tried so many of those failed policies before, and like we all know, we're not going back. We will move forward and take on the biggest issues facing our nation. For example, the issue of immigration. So I was Attorney General of a border state. I went after the transnational gangs, the drug cartels, and human traffickers. I prosecuted them in case after case, and I won. So I know what I'm talking about. We know our immigration system is broken, and we know what it takes to fix it. Comprehensive reform that includes strong border security and an earned pathway to citizenship.
Okay. So why a pathway to citizenship? After, like, how many do you plan to deport? Because there's like 12 million, more than 12 million people who've come in. So how many do you plan to deport? And that was something they're trying to grill VD Vance on, like, how's Trump going to deport 12 million people? Like, well, we will focus on what we can that's achievable. We're going to stop the bleeding at the border, and we're going to focus on what we can. So we're going to start off with 1 million, and then we're going to go from there. I don't think either group is going to get rid of 12 million people. I'm just going to be frank. I could be pleasantly surprised, but I just don't think they're going to get rid of, anyone's going to get rid of 12 million people. But why this pathway to citizenship? There was always this suspicion that, they wanted all these people in, and then they'd make them citizens, and then they'd expect that they would be eternally grateful, and that they'd vote Democrat, and basically the country would be one party rule. Very much like how California is. So if that's the case, seems like a good plan, because she's saying that, oh, we got to do something about the border, as if you weren't the border czar. Or if you don't like that title, we can just say you are the vice president. If you guys know what works, why not do it? Why not do it? Why not do it, Kamala? Why? And a lot of things that Trump did with the border, he did through executive order. And you could hire more border agents, but if more border people are just going to basically be babysitters or ushers that usher the people into the country, and you're not really looking to keep people out, because if you say, well, any kind of reform that we do that's going to actually solve the problem, we have to grant a pathway to citizenship, doesn't that just incentivize more people to come? Doesn't that just incentivize more people to come if they know that if they break the rules, there's going to be a pathway to citizenship? Let's just think about some common sense there, right there, Kamala. When you reward bad behavior, people continue doing bad behavior, especially because it's faster. It's faster than one person in the family getting a job, being there over for years or whatever, trying to sponsor their family, get them over here. If you can just illegally cross the border, pay the cartel 10 grand or whatever, get you and your family up here. You cross the border, maybe your wife is knocked up, pops out a baby, American citizen. If they can do that, and then Kamala Harris is going to grant them citizenship, why wouldn't they do that? It just seems like really simple things someone should ask her. And she would just probably try to keep herself from giggling. They probably have a shock collar or something on her, trying to train her not to do that cackle that she does. Because she has been coached a little bit. Well, a lot, probably. So, Kamala, come on. Now, if you think that Kamala Harris is going to be the one who fixes the border issue, and they're running ads too, like Kamala Harris tough on the border, which I'm not I'd have to look more into her record. Ben Shapiro was like, I lived in California. This isn't true. She did not crack down on all this stuff with these gangs and anything at the border. That's not true. And it's certainly not anything I've really heard her brag about in the past. So I'll have to look more into that. But Kamala Harris quite literally likened ICE to the KKK. And I'm just not convinced that particular person is going to be the one who solves the border issue.
Had this line of questioning for Trump's pick to head ICE.
Well, the Klan was what we would call today a domestic terrorist group.
Why? Why would we call them domestic terrorist group?
Because they tried to use fear and force to change political environment.
And what was the motivation for the use of fear and
It
force?
was based on race and ethnicity.
Right. Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
officers and agents.
I'm talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel between what is constitutionally mandated as it relates to enforcing the law.
Are you aware
protecting
that there's a
people's rights. I
perception?
see no.
Are you aware
perception
that there's a
that puts
perception?
ICE in the same category as the KKK.
Yeah. That's Kamala. That's Kamala, one of the most insincere people in the game. The first time I really kind of paid much attention to Kamala Harris was during the Kavanaugh stuff. And when she announced, she's like, I believe her, talking about Christy Blasey Ford. I'm like, you haven't heard her testimony. What do you mean you believe her? How can you know that she's telling the truth if you haven't heard her? Aren't you a prosecutor? Like you don't want to hear the facts first? You don't want to hear any of the facts first? Okay. Okie dokie. So again, I don't think Kamala Harris, who likened the ICE to the KKK, is going to solve the border issue. I don't think the person who, was mad at Border Patrol for riding on horses and trying to catch Haitians, who were crossing illegally, and they're riding on horses. Do you guys remember the split rein stuff when there was images and people were like, they're whipping migrants, and the Haitians were, dark-skinned black guys, and so they're like, they're whipping the migrants. Oh my gosh, they're whipping the migrants. And so they any person who knows anything about horses or whatever knew that those were split reins and they weren't using them to whip them. Now I don't know much about horses, but I'm not stupid. I'm just not stupid. So I never thought that the Border Patrol agents were whipping the migrants with the reins. Just never crossed my mind. And Biden and Kamala, they should have known better, but they still entertained this whole investigation with our Border Patrol agents. And then they ended up like, I don't know if they reinstituted it, but they like fired the horses. They were like, well, okay, we're not going to use the horses anymore. So you guys can't fire anyone after droning an aid worker in Afghanistan and killing kids. But y'all going to fire some horses because of what? Oh, because of, like Kamala said, because of perception. Because of perception. Not the truth, because of perception. Like, take a valuable lesson out of that little segment. Like, it's not important what the truth is. It's not important what the law is. It doesn't matter what reality is. What matters is people's perception of reality. It doesn't matter that Kamala Harris is a gigantic liar. All that matters is that she can control perception. It doesn't matter that she doesn't respect the American people enough to go and actually talk to them and talk about the issues and get grilled and just demonstrate that she's competent enough to do it. If she's not competent enough to sit down for an interview with CNN, for crying out loud, how is she going to be competent enough to be the leader of the free world? Well, all that matters is perception, and they're winning the perception game right now because they have fun little videos. They have fun little videos. And when Trump hits back or his people hit back, they're like, this is our borders are. And they show her laughing and dancing, and people go, oh, that's fun. Again, we'll get what we deserve, but we got to get better on the messaging. We got to get better on the messaging. VD Vance talking about she's a chameleon, she's fake and stuff. That's great stuff, but you can't just say it though. You got to show it. That's the route to go. Like Trump, you know what you're going to get. Like you may hate him, you may like him, but you're going to have more money in your pocket. You know that there's going to be less wars or whatever. So at the end of the day, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get some nasty tweets from time to time that you're not going to like. Okay. But you know what you get. You've already experienced him. The world obviously didn't blow up when he was president. With Kamala Harris, you don't know what you're going to get because she lies all the time. And it's really easy to show that she lies all the time and that she's silly and an airhead. And you don't have to do that by just like showing videos of her laughing or whatever. You can actually we've been to the border. We've been to the border. We've been to the border. You haven't been to the border. And I haven't been to Europe either. That stuff like that. Gosh, and they're trying to avoid moments like that, but there's enough that already exist. So use it, darn it. Use it. I don't know what's going on out. Actually, I don't know if you guys can hear, but man, there's something going outside. And it's really loud. So let's talk about no tax on tips before I let you go. No tax on tips. So Trump, this is just a little snippet that someone put together, but Donald Trump, he first said that he was out somewhere and a waitress was complaining about the taxes on tips. And he's like, oh, would it be great if we didn't tax tips? And it was like, yeah. So he's been going around for a while saying no tax on tips. There's different people going out to dinner and they leave a tip and then they're like, hey, Trump isn't going to do tax on tips. Some people have made stamps that they can put on their receipts. Now, if you do that, please don't leave bad tips for the waitress staff, if you're going to advertise for Trump with the no tax on tips, do not like be all cheap and stuff if you're going to write anything down like that. So Kamala Harris must have liked the idea so much that she actually just decided to rip it off.
Because when I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips, people making tips.
Eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
Because
so just like a month apart, and they're like, oh, that sounds actually pretty nifty. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, there's a couple reasons to believe that she's not going to actually do that. Well, first of all, I will say when Trump was going around saying no tax on tips, I'm like, okay, why just no tax on tips? Why should our income be taxed at all? So there's a question, which Trump did apparently float, not having income tax. So, so maybe he's going to go further than what she's doing. Now, Kamala Harris, the no tax on tips, if you recall, she was the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which they're going to hire more IRS folks, and they're going to be going after waitresses and your Venmo accounts and your Cash Apps and your... But she's also from California, where they really wanted to, hammer down on these different like gig economy workers like Uber and so on. And they wanted them to be like regular wage kind of people instead of like contract workers. So, which I assume no tax on tips would also go to like apply to the contract workers. Because if you do like DoorDash or something, and your base pay might be like $2 or something for an order, and the rest that you get might be higher than that or whatever. Sometimes they have bonuses, but they, like most people, what they get from DoorDash or whatever would be the tip. So if that would apply to that, that'd be great for them too. But California, they don't like the contract worker kind of stuff. They're trying to force a lot of that to change. So I would not trust her as far as I could throw her. No freaking way. And I understand they're trying to buy votes here with this pitch, and people really liked it and responded to it. And maybe it's an easy lie for her to push through. But by the way, why not try to pitch it now? Like if Speaker Johnson was like, okay, Kamala, like we'll get this together. We'll pass the bill, no tax on tips. We can get it signed in like, as long as the Senate goes for it, we'll get it. We can get it done this week. Y'all think the Democrats will want to like jump at that? Or we could just get rid of income tax. You think Democrats would just jump at that? No, they want to tax people more. They're always looking for more money. And frankly, if they just want to keep paying for everything with government money, how are they not going to tax people? If they want tax dollars to pay for childcare, where is it going to come from? Where's all this money coming from to feed all the kids their school lunches, even in kids who don't need the school lunches? Like, there's a lot of well-off kids who go to school, public school. Like, so, like, where's all this money coming from? You want teachers to earn more. You want all these people to earn more money and get paid more money for the government, paid leave, and all this stuff. You want healthcare to be paid all by the government. Where's all this money coming from? Where? You got to tax somebody? You're just gonna leave out the tips? I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. It's not like you're tightening your belt with war. You guys keep sending money to Ukraine. Like, maybe you're going to do a weapons embargo on Israel. I don't know. Floating it around when the radicals ask you about it. And then your aides say, oh, no, we're not going to do that. She could answer those questions herself. But where's all this money for Ukraine coming from? And it's the social programs and stuff, the entitlements that take up the biggest chunk, and they don't want to touch those, and Trump doesn't really want to touch them either, to be frank, but Where's all this money coming from? Where? Well, they fund all their little projects, infrastructure and all that stuff. Where's the money coming from? No one believes you, Kamala. But every time she pitches something, people should just be like, why wait? Why wait? And people will say, well, it's because she's a vice president. She doesn't have the power to do anything. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I happen to live through the era where Dick Cheney was vice president. I just don't buy that vice presidents can't do anything. But Joe Biden, he's sleeping on a beach some weekend while we're gearing up for World War III. And, you know, he's done some interviews or whatever, more than she has since you know, he got booted. But he doesn't seem like he's up to task to be the president. And frankly, she's not either. But unfortunately, he's the president. She's the vice president. You know, she should be probably taking on more responsibility, if not the presidency itself right now. So people just acting like was merely window dressing for Biden. And now you think she's worthy to be the president after convincing me that she's useless and that's why she can't accomplish anything and hasn't accomplished her goals. It's all very strange, guys. It doesn't make sense to me. But I guess if it did make sense, I'd be a Democrat. Like for your perception versus reality. It's the perception that she cares about. The feelings. Before I let you go, let me play this video. Tenet Media decided to interview some Kamala Harris folks. And that's not it. And their reasoning for voting for Kamala Harris is interesting. It's always interesting when you see these videos pop up because nobody has any good reasons, man. Nobody has good reasons for wanting to support her. But they do. So I think it really speaks to the confusion of the day. And here we go.
Why are y'all voting for Kamala Harris?
I don't want to lose my rights. Like, I'm a trans man and I'm gay and I have been pregnant and I've had an abortion before and I don't want to lose that. I'm afraid of not being able to be myself anymore because from what I've heard, Trump's America doesn't want me to look like this. So that's why I'm here today and that's why I'm voting blue.
What about you?
I've also been pregnant and had an abortion before. I was a minor and it would have been dangerous for me to properly, like, it would have been dangerous for me to carry a baby with, like, personal reasons and everything. I also, like, I'm very, you know, alternative, and I feel like if Trump were to win, I wouldn't be able to, like, express myself through my looks and everything, and wouldn't be able to have the piercings or the dyed hair or the tattoos that I want. You know, I would be able to be myself, and my dad's very pro-Trump, and I'm just very
Pro-Kamala.
pro-Kamala. Yeah, I don't, you know, it's
Does
just,
that cause a divide at all?
yeah, it definitely does. He thinks that Kamala's going to ruin the country, but I think that Trump would do worse, like, a lot. Like, Kamala is going to be good for the country.
Why are y'all
Okay. Her poor dad. You know, maybe her dad is awful, but I don't know. The arguments they must have. Let's just look at her again. Okay, first of all, Trump has been the president of the United States before. And I don't know when she decided to go alternative as far as her looks and her long hair and her makeup. And, you know, it's not like she's a dragon man or something. She's just like goth or weird, a little weirdo. Why would Trump care? Why would you think, out of all the reasons to not vote for Donald Trump, why would you think that you wouldn't be able to wear long press-on nails and like mascara, like or eyeliner or whatever? Like, why would you think? You are not that edgy. You are not that edgy. that someone is just thinking about how can we get that girl with the orange hair to dress normal in Trump's America. And this girl who says she's a trans man who's gay. So she's a girl who's identifying as a boy who still likes men. And she's been pregnant before and she's had an abortion. And they want to keep that, which Trump is, to my annoyance, not really doing much with the abortion issue. So they're all clear there, right? All clear there. But this is what they think. So this is what they think, by the way. So Trump and the Republicans trying to basically take a knee on with the abortion issue. At the end of the day, they're still saying that they're going to ban it everywhere. They're still calling heartbeat bills Trump bans, abortion bans and stuff. You might as well have fought for the issue to say, you know what? Every time you have an abortion, you are taking it. Every time we talk about this issue, we're talking about taking a human person's life. So we have to. That's why it's contentious. It's not about like just a woman, her body. There's another body in that body. So every time we're having a conversation about abortion, we're talking about someone who took a life, who wants to take a life, and just talk about the issue for real. Make people see the humanity of the child and that it is a special right to murder, to take a life of your child. And there needs to be a good reason, a very good reason. If there's a reason at all, it needs to be a very good reason to do that. So them taking a knee on it still hasn't helped because these people are still out there. Like you got Amber Rose. Congratulations. Amber Rose is out there voting for you. But these people, and I don't know how their vote was on the table at all, but these mentally disturbed young people are in it for Kamala Harris not because of reality, because of the perception of reality. This is just like perfect. Trans man who's gay who had an abortion. So you're a woman who wants to look masculine, who has sex with dudes, I guess, and got knocked up once, and you had an abortion. Okay. I don't know how old they are, but 2017 wasn't that long ago. They're old enough to have lived through that era. I assume maybe they were old enough to vote then. But Donald Trump, well, he didn't ruin the country the first time. So what's with this delusion, guys? Last thing I want to show you guys before I let you go is I was going to show you this abortion video, but maybe I'll hold that off and just show this snippet of Tim Walz. Tim Walz is pretty good at the rallies and revving up a crowd. And he keeps saying this, mind your business, blah, 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 blah. And it's just rich because this man had folks, their neighbors snitching.
Look, you and I, especially the gray hairs in the crowd, we know our relatives. Republicans used to be the people talking about freedom. Not this group. When they talk about freedom, it means that the government should be free to invade your exam room with your doctor. Look, in Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and the personal choices they make. We maybe wouldn't make the same choices, but we respect them. And I know in Minnesota and in Arizona and places across this country, you know what makes society work best is when you learn a golden rule. Mind your own damn business. Mind your own damn business. We don't need it.
Okay, let me I'm not even gonna play the rest of the clip. I got enough there. Okay. In Minnesota during COVID, they set up hotlines for people to snitch on each other. So when he talks about neighbors respecting each other, he's lying. He's lying. He's one of the worst tyrants during the lockdowns. He's a liar. When he's saying freedom, they want the government to come in your exam room. Well, the government's role, the reason why they exist, is to protect our inalienable rights. You know, one being the right to life. So in my opinion, and I believe this opinion is correct, when the government doesn't go out of its way to make sure that children aren't poisoned, suffocated, and dismembered, they are actually just kind of giving up on the reason that they exist. They are abandoning their duty, their whole entire purpose. When they are like, oh, yep, go ahead, you can kill the kid. Yep, totally, immunity if you want to do that. They should get equal protection. They should absolutely get equal protection under the 14th Amendment. Absolutely. There's nothing that excludes them. As a matter of fact, the John A. Bigelow or Bigham maybe? I think it's Bigham. One of the authors of the 14th Amendment, he used human being and person interchangeably. So people trying to use person and personhood philosophically and separate it from just being a human and thinking there's all these qualifiers. There's no like legal distinction from the biological distinction within the 14th Amendment. Okay? But they think that the government should intervene. And when you don't want to pump your kids full of hormones and go along with the fantasy of them being the opposite gender, that they can take your kids away. So this mind your own business stuff, it's garbage. There should be instant ads from the Trump campaign and they need to push back against this because the mind your bleep your business or whatever, what they're saying, that's resonating. So they need to push back on it, but it's just not true. And people who've lived in Minnesota under the tyranny of this man know it's not true. I have people who usually seem pretty calm and collected politically who are very concerned about this team. Very concerned. But I wanted to stop it there because he said the golden rule. The golden rule is mind your business. Golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself. The golden rule is treat others. It's treat others the way that you want to be treated. And that's a concept you can find within that scripture I just quoted. But love your neighbor as yourself. Like those concepts, that's a golden rule, not mind your business. So when I tell people, because sometimes people are like, well, why is abortion bad early or whatever? There's no point in my life where I would ever advocate that it is appropriate to conspire to kill me unjustly. No point. Not today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, not when I was in the womb. And if you don't want someone to conspire to kill you, it's reasonable to want to conspire to kill the most vulnerable while they're in the womb. So when you talk about the golden rule, sir, that's not the golden rule. One time I had a friend in high school, she thought our teacher, I think our econ teacher asked like, what's the golden rule? My friend said, whoever has the gold makes the rules. We all kind of laughed and she's like, no, I legitimately, I thought that was the rule. I thought that was the golden rule. And we're like, no, that's not the golden rule. But no, the golden rule is you treat others the way that you want to be treated. So again, if you don't want someone to dismember you, perhaps you shouldn't vote to support other people being dismembered. Okay? It's really that simple. It's really that simple. And you can say, well, I don't want anyone to tell me what to do. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. First of all, these Democrats, they're like, govern me harder, daddy. They oh my gosh, people loved being governed if you just look at COVID. But we tell people what to do all the time. They tell men to sign up for, or else for the draft, they told us what to do during COVID. They tell us not to kill each other, obviously. You don't have the freedom and the liberty to do whatever you want, especially if you're going to infringe on somebody else. Okay? So you can do what you want as long as you're not infringing. And the crazy thing is that they understand that they think it's acceptable when you want to preserve someone's life to take extreme measures, because that's why they wanted people to do whatever they wanted in COVID, as far as like the government being so authoritative. They gave them a pass because they were saving lives. They could coerce people to taking the job because they're saving lives. They could make you wear a mask because you're saving lives. It was in the interest of saving lives. So when we're like, no, we should ban abortion because it's saving lives, they're like, guys, just think about it. Just think about it. But when you want the world to revolve around you and all your needs and your wants and your desires, I guess how you feel is all that matters. I really don't get it for people who say that they would never personally have one, but still want to support solely on abortion. That's what's really crazy to me. But I will say this before I let you guys go, and I'll have to expound upon it more later. But when you can vote on the matter of abortion, and even though you wouldn't do it, and you say that you want it to be available for other people, you are signing your name on that death warrant. There's going to be children who are killed who would not be dead if not for you and your decision that you made. So in Arizona and Florida, where they're going to have different ballot measures, or in Michigan, we had a ballot measure. If you put your name to passing those sorts of things, if you have the opportunity to say abortion could be outlawed, but I'm going to make sure that we keep it, you are taking on the collective guilt of those children being killed. And I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic. Like, it's different if we're talking about keeping a tool or something available. We're talking about specifically allowing a process where the intention is homicide, where the intention is saying these particular human beings cannot be protected, and if they are killed, then we are giving immunity to whoever participated in their demise. If lynching was on the ballot, and we're going to say, well, we're going to lynch Black people, if we put that on the ballot, you don't think there'd be a collective guilt of everyone who said that should be legal? Or if we're going to say we're going to decriminalize people who shoot up schools, you don't think that the people who voted for that measure would have collective guilt of when there's a tragedy that occurs, saying that the people who do it can't be found guilty of it? Of course there would be. Of course there would be. So if you're on the fence about supporting this stuff, whatever you support, that blood is on your hands too. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on the website. Please go to we got articles and videos, etc. We got different merchandise that you guys can check out. That does also help out the show as well. It does cost a stream around my website, all that good stuff. So you guys can help. You guys can donate there, but you guys can also check out merch like this cool "I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For" t-shirt. We got black tea mugs and this cool "The Constitution is Glorious Liberty" document with Frederick Douglass on there, and all kinds of goodies. So go ahead and check out the different merch there. Please go check out that video that I did with debunking top 10 Trump hoaxes from the media. VD Vance mentioned one that he believed with the Trump calling Mexicans rapists. You know, I tried to post it on TikTok, but immediately they removed the sound. And it was just that clip of Trump at that initial press conference, and I like gave some commentary, and immediately they removed the sound. And they didn't really explain. They just said it was like a violation of other guidelines, but I didn't understand why. And I couldn't appeal it. When they remove the sound, they don't let you appeal it. It's really bizarre. I don't know if someone claimed copyright on the video. And I don't know, maybe they don't want people to know the truth about that clip. So yeah, it was bizarre. But you guys can go ahead and watch the full video that I put together on YouTube about that. And I recommend that you guys share it around so people can know the truth instead of just having their silly little perceptions, as Kamala Harris said. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today, and I will see you tomorrow.